According to a massive new report from the New York Times this week, Donald Trump has found a new way to take your tax dollars and put them directly into his own pockets because, of course, the grift never ends. And Donald Trump's latest grift, of course, according to the Times, is that he has filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice. Technically, he filed one in 2023, filed another in 2024, and the Biden administration, unfortunately, did not just outright reject them. They didn't touch them, so they're still there. So that's a big fail on the Biden administration and Merrick Garland's part. So now Donald Trump's own Department of Justice gets to determine whether or not Donald Trump is entitled to $230 million in compensation for the investigations that were launched into him. And of course, many of them ended with indictments, but all those charges were dropped because he became president of the United States again. So, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, Donald Trump's former personal lawyer, is one of the people that gets to make the decision. The other people could be Pam Bondi for the investigations originating from the Department of Justice. For any investigation involving the FBI, Kash Patel would be able to make the determination as to whether or not maybe the FBI was just targeting him because they don't like him, and therefore you're entitled to $230 million. So it could be any one of the people who depend on Donald Trump for a job that makes the ultimate determination about whether or not he gets the $230 million. And I think we all know where they're going to go with that. Now, first and foremost, Donald Trump was not politically persecuted. Donald Trump was given every single possibility to do the right thing, especially in the documents case. He chose not to do it. In terms of the Russia investigation, which is one of the things he's filed a complaint for, that actually happened while you were president. Like, that was your administration investigating you. You don't get to say your own investigation targeted you because of your like, what the hell? But that's one of them. Then, of course, the Capitol riot. Donald Trump absolutely refused to take action, did not deploy the National Guard, which he has made crystal clear this year he obviously can do. So you could have stopped that. You could have turned the documents back over any of the 100 times they asked you before they even sent the FBI to Mar-a-Lago. You didn't do that. This is all because of what you did as a person. You deserved to be investigated. You deserved to be indicted. You did not deserve to have any of those charges dropped against you. But again, failures of the Biden administration, which Merrick Garland was one of the worst attorney generals we've ever had. Pam Bondi, obviously worse. I'm not trying to say, but you know, it really, Merrick Garland screwed the pooch in so many different ways that absolutely led to Trump getting back into the White House. He did. If Merrick Garland had done his job, Trump wouldn't have been able to run for president because he'd have been in prison. Plain and simple fact. But all of that is irrelevant now. What is relevant is that Donald Trump is likely going to get at least some portion of that $230 million that, according to the Times, does in fact come directly out of the taxpayer kitty. So that's our money. The money you pay. Every paycheck, every quarter, every April, whenever it is you pay your taxes, Donald Trump is likely going to be able to take some of that and put it in his own pocket. And I hope he does. I genuinely hope his own administration decides to say, yeah, you know what? Let's give him the $230 million. I want him to get it. Because if you think the backlash, if you think the drop in his poll numbers is bad now, wait till that happens. Wait till all these MAGA freaks that are still putting out videos on TikTok like, we're going to get tariff rebate checks, you libs, suck on that. Yeah, Wait till they not only don't get those checks, but see Donald Trump's own administration writing him a $230 million check. How do you think that's going to sit with some of them? Not even most, but some. Some are going to be pissed. Everybody outside of the MAGA movement, regardless of party affiliation, will also be pissed. We will never, in our lifetime, see the American public in numbers like we will see if he pays himself $230 million of our tax dollars. So I'd love to see it happen, because that will be the end of anything involving Donald Trump. That could be the end of the Republican Party for the next 4 or 5 election cycles. So go ahead, cut yourself the check. What's the worst that could happen? So it wasn't long ago, maybe a week or so, when MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell was telling us that he's completely broke and I'm going to have to go door to door begging for money to appeal my case. Well, apparently he's no longer concerned about the fact that he doesn't have any money, because he's now considering, according to what he said in an interview with Steve Bannon this week, he's considering running for governor of Minnesota. So a week ago, Mike Lindell is on the air crying about his money problems, crying about his legal problems. I'm facing a $1.2 billion defamation lawsuit. I need money. And then a week later, he's like, yeah, I may run for governor of Minnesota. I don't know. I'm a wild and crazy guy. So obviously, he's not that concerned about money. Obviously, he's not that concerned about his company that's, not doing well. And obviously, he's not concerned about the potential $1 billion he could owe for the defamation lawsuits that he is still facing. Or perhaps he's banking on that conservative mogul who is buying Dominion voting systems to simply drop the case altogether. He'll still face the one from Smartmatic, sure. But I think that's what he's really banking on, is the conservative, mega donor that's going to buy Dominion will probably drop that lawsuit. But here is what Lindell said during the Bannon show. Bannon says, quote, "Why is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota trying to shut down your network to make sure that people who get away from addiction, drug addiction, all the addictions based on Christian principles, why is he targeting you, sir?" And Lindell says, "I would call him a radical Muslim." All right, we're going to stop just a moment right there, Mike. Could have done without the Islamophobia, right? Do we have to always pepper in racism, Republicans? Is that just so ingrained in your DNA that you literally cannot do anything without throwing in some racism? And I know we've said that, not all Republicans are racist, but racists sure do fit in well with the Republicans, but I don't even know that that's accurate anymore. I mean, at this point, the amount of casual racism that these Republicans throw out, the amount of racist text messages, holy hell, that we've had in the last 7 days is just overwhelming. So I'm still kind of willing to say that not all Republicans are racists. But God, you guys are not doing a good job proving that you're not all racist. So I'll continue. I believe he hates our country. You have Elon Omar there too, and I believe attacks on me. They don't want people getting off addiction and becoming Christians or giving their lives to Jesus Christ. He could also be upset that I'm considering running for governor of Minnesota. And Bannon says, "What? Hold on, that's a scoop. You're considering doing what?" And Lindell says, "Running for governor of Minnesota against Tim Walz," one of the most popular governors in the country, by the way. Bannon says, "Am I breaking news here? There's too much news we're breaking today. Is this true? Mike Lindell's thinking of running for governor?" And Lindell says, "Absolutely." Now, here's the thing. Again, Tim Walz is one of the most popular governors in America. Okay? His job seems to be pretty secure, especially against a nutbag like Mike Lindell. But running for governor in Minnesota makes sense for a guy like Lindell if we take his past statements at value. Because remember, again, a week ago, I'm broke. I have nothing. I can't even afford to appeal already the verdict, the liability against me. So, what's a good way to get a lot of quick money in the United States and through various dubious means put a little of that in your own pocket? The answer, of course, is run for public office, start a political action committee, do all kinds of things involving running for office. And sure, there are very strict rules about what you can and cannot spend that money on, but let's be honest here, folks, regardless of your party affiliation, those rules are almost never enforced. I mean, if they were, then you would have somebody like Caroline Leavitt probably being prosecuted right now because, she never paid any of her campaign debts. I know if we don't pay our debts, you owe somebody, a company, money, and you don't pay them, you're immediately going to be sued. And then if you fail to pay that, you can end up in jail. But if you're running a political campaign, suddenly, hey, you don't have to worry about your debts. If there's no money, there's no money. It's all good, right? We have seen plenty of instances where there's questionable campaign expenses that really look a lot like just personal expenses. So a guy who is, as Lindell described himself, broke, that may be the easiest way to get a little bit of free money, at least, to buy yourself a nice meal, continue to have electricity in your home. So yeah, it does make total sense that this is where Lindell's mind is headed. Donald Trump has now been hit, well, his administration, I guess I should say, with a class action lawsuit. One of the first times we've really seen an actual class action lawsuit filed against an administration, but he's been hit with it nevertheless over a provision of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that they insisted be in there and then did nothing to, make sure they could handle after the bill passed. Here's what it is. Obviously, most of the big, beautiful bill, the horrific parts, right, that cuts the Medicaid, that cuts the SNAP, the massive tax giveaway to the top 1%, those have been talked about ad nauseum. What has rarely been mentioned is the fact that a provision in the bill, that again, it did pass, this is now reality, requires every single asylum seeker coming into the United States to give the Trump administration $100. Now, I'm not even making that up. Yes, you're an asylum seeker. Obviously, you don't have much. You don't have resources. And if you stay in your homeland, you will likely die. But if you want to come over here, give the guy in the White House $100 and, there you go. That's part of the bill. Unfortunately, though, for the asylum seekers who do have $100 and are trying to pay, the administration didn't set up any way for them to pay. There's nothing. There's no website. There's no portal. You can't just pay the court and say, hey, but can you give this to Donnie? I don't know how to pay him. See, that's why this lawsuit to me is absolutely hilarious. Not that it's funny that these people are going through this. This is horrific and it's disgusting that Trump has done this. But what's hilarious to me is that this lawsuit is going to force the administration to do one of two things. First, they could admit, sorry, we're so incredibly incompetent, we didn't think about the fact that we actually have to set up a payment system, a new website. We got to get our Stripe account so we could accept your credit and debit card numbers. So we're just a bunch of bumbling morons over here. Our bad. That's option one. That's the best option for them, honestly. Admitting that we're just a bunch of stupid hicks. The second option is they can admit, yeah, there's no portal. These people have to figure it out on their own. Oh, and if they don't figure it out, by the way, we get to send them right back. So almost of a weaponized incompetence defense there. Oh, we forgot to do it, but you still have to pay. And if you don't pay, we get to ship you back. So they either have to admit that they're grotesquely incompetent or deceptively evil by intentionally screwing these people over so they can't pay, so they get to send them back. Those are the only two options here, folks. Gross incompetence or cartoon villain level of evil. And as this lawsuit progresses, we will find out which one it is. They will have to make an admission. I would hope it's the incompetence. I firmly believe it's the evil part. I do not think for a second that this government just forgot to set up a payment system. Donald Trump's not going to forget that he wants money from people. No. This was by design. They don't want these people to be able to pay. Because if they pay, they're likely going to be able to stay. Stephen Miller wouldn't be happy with that now, would he? No. So force them to pay, but give them no way to pay, so then you can say you didn't pay, you're going back. That, I believe, was the plan all along. The political persecution and prosecution of New York Attorney General Letitia James is already dead on arrival. Now, it has not been dismissed yet, but based on a reading of the actual charging documents by legal expert and podcast host Liz Dye, there is no case. And we're not just saying like, oh, there's no case here, she'll easily win. I mean, when you literally look at Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney that Trump put in there, and then she indicted everybody within days. If you look at her charging documents and her evidence, her own charging documents are disproven by her own evidence. There literally is no case because the thing that Lindsay Halligan, who's never prosecuted a case before a day in her life, submitted to the court disproves itself. Here's what Liz Dye, the way she explained it. Letitia James, of course, has been indicted for mortgage fraud, right? The same thing she got Trump for, to the tune, however, of $19,000. We're not talking about the hundreds of millions that Trump did. This was 19 grand. So, the way Letitia James allegedly did it, according to the charging documents, was she got the loan from Freddie Mac to buy this house in a different city, different state, all that, but then she rented it out. So she was making a profit on it. So we gotta arrest her for this. And it turns out, again, according to Liz Dye, who did go through all the documents with a fine-tooth comb, see, the loan that Letitia James received actually does have a rider attached to it. And the rider says, oh, by the way, you can rent out this property to other people. What you cannot do is give it to a company that then rents it out to people. Like, if you want to rent it to somebody, you can do that, but you are the landlord, not somebody else. Literally in the documents that Letitia James signed, I'm allowed. The bank says you're totally free to rent this out as long as you are the person renting it out. And she's indicted for renting out a property because allegedly it went against her mortgage documents. No, the mortgage document is crystal clear. That's done. Like, that is case dismissed. The fact that it hasn't already been dismissed is, honest to God, shocking. The court system should have immediately seen this, looked at the way Lindsay Halligan filed the charges, looked at the evidence Lindsay Halligan submitted and said, hold up, are you a f***ing idiot? Get the hell out of my courtroom, you dumbass, and maybe we're going to have a hearing on disbarring you. Which I do firmly believe, by the way, Lindsay Halligan is probably going to end up being disbarred. If this is the kind of crap she is filing, contradicting her own charges with her own evidence in a court filing, that is the kind of thing that will get you disbarred. So her future is done. Letitia James, on the other hand, she's going to be just fine. This is a shocking development in this case, folks. I don't know, maybe some people care about Donald Trump going after his political enemies, maybe they don't, but this is the kind of crap they are doing. And as I've said since day one, the one thing, the one hope that America has to survive is the fact that Donald Trump is so damn stupid that he is incapable of hiring smart people as he attempts his takeover of the United States. Their incompetence is the one thing that might keep this country alive long enough to get somebody else in the White House. So I left town last week, actually last Thursday. And so for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I did not read a single bit of news, was not plugged into anything, didn't open my computer, didn't open any of my news apps. I had no idea what was going on in the world, and for 3 days, I was happy. So imagine my shock when I finally get back this week and I'm looking at news and I find out that I missed a rather big story. That Donald Trump had in fact commuted the sentence of fraudster and former Republican Congressman George Santos. I did not know about that until Tuesday of this week. I totally missed it, was not checking news, didn't see anything. And yeah, that was crazy to me, but not completely shocking. I just really thought Donald Trump maybe had enough sense to know that that wasn't going to be a smart decision, but hey, the guy surprises us every day with how dumb he gets. So he has commuted the sentence of George Santos. Santos was released on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, a free man. Not only a free man, right? Doesn't have to serve the remaining 84 months of his 87-month prison sentence, but he also doesn't have to pay back any of his victims, right? The more than $300,000 that he owes them in restitution wiped out. Now, Democrats obviously pissed off by this. Republicans actually pissed off by this. And of course, the victims are enraged that they are not going to get the restitution that George Santos owes them. He gets to go about the rest of his life a free man. Not exactly. See, the state of New York, where, of course, George Santos committed these crimes, they passed a law, actually called the Manafort Rule, overturning the Manafort Rule, I should say, many years ago. And yes, that's named after the former Trump accomplice for very obvious reasons. But the Manafort Rule that is now gone had prevented the state from bringing state charges against somebody if they had been pardoned for the same offenses on the federal level. Now that that is gone, the state of New York absolutely can charge somebody with state-level crimes, even if they have been pardoned, granted clemency, or had a sentence commuted on the federal level. So George Santos could still be facing state charges for the very same things he was already serving a little bit of prison time for, which means no, George Santos is likely not going to remain a free man for the rest of his days. In fact, the Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly already issued a statement about it. Since first learning of George Santos's actions, I have been at the forefront of bringing him to justice. I am proud of the work my office has done and the conviction achieved in partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office. While the office cannot comment on ongoing investigations, suffice it to say that I remain focused on prosecuting political corruption wherever it exists, regardless of political affiliation. So I can't comment on ongoing investigations while I'm talking about George Santos, but just understand, people, I'm not going to let any political corruption go. I think that's a pretty good indicator that her office, who launched the investigation to begin with and worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office, so they already have all the evidence. They already have every single thing that they need. Kind of sounds like they're just crossing their T's and dotting their I's and getting ready to file some paperwork against George Santos, right? So that's going to be fun. Watching that little freak have to go right back through the court system in an area where Donald Trump and his Republican allies cannot protect him at all. They can't save him this time. Kind of like the whole Steve Bannon thing, right? The we build the wall, Trump gave him the pardon, and then New York was like, all right, fine, we'll just charge him here in New York. So, yeah, Santos might be a free man right now. And yes, it is absolutely disgusting that this happened, but the state of New York can make the victims whole and, hopefully, make Santos spend a couple years in prison in an area where no Republican is going to be able to get him out.